Hi everyone, my name is Frank Westphal, and in this video I'm going to show you how to backup and restore on Windows 11, 10, 8, and 7. I'm going to be using the built-in or native backup application that's part of all Windows operating systems since Windows 7 and continuing through Windows 11. This type of backup is called a local or on-site backup. That just means that the backup is physically located in your immediate environment. You have physical access to the backup. And because you have it readily available, you can restore it very fast. First, I'm going to show you how to create a system image. Then I'm going to show you how to add file level backup to that. And finally, I'm going to show you how to restore both the system image and the file level backup. I'll explain the difference between a system image backup and a file level backup as I'm doing them. And you'll also be able to see them both in action during the restore process. There are so many backup applications out there, and some of them are really good and some of them are not very good. But because Windows already has a backup application built into it, there's no need to use third-party backup software for backups. Anytime you can eliminate a third-party application and still do what you need to do, that's a good thing because it's one less application on the computer that can malfunction. We're keeping it as clean and simple as possible while also still being able to do the job we need it to do. For this video, you will need a computer that you want to back up and a large external USB drive. This particular one is a Seagate 4 terabyte. These go for about $85 on Amazon. You can also get a 2 terabyte version for about $60. It depends on how much data you're backing up, but generally speaking, if you get a 2 terabyte, you're going to have quite a few days worth of backups. If you really want to have it covered, I would just go with the 4 terabyte. And you'll also need a USB installation disk, such as this, with Windows installation media on it. It should be Windows 10 or Windows 11. Ideally, in this case, I'm restoring a Windows 11 system, so it should be a Windows 11 installation disk. I show in one of my other videos how to make this, and it has a picture of this on the thumbnail. All right, here we go. Okay, so I plugged in the external backup drive, and I can see it here. First thing you want to do is format this disk, and you don't want to be using a backup disk for other things like taking it off the computer and then putting some movies on it, putting some songs on it or MP3s or other files, and then putting it back on the computer to do backups. For a backup drive, you want it dedicated specifically for the purpose of backup. It just sits there and the only thing it does is back up the computer. So I'm going to go and format this because it has to be NTFS file system for Windows native backup to work. If it's formatted in exFAT, you can't do a Windows backup. So we're going to do NTFS file system and quick format. You can call it whatever you want, like maybe you call this backup hard drive or something like that. And we get the warning, formatting will erase all data on this disk. So be sure you're okay with deleting all your data on this disk. Format is complete. Now, real quickly, there is a backup application in Windows 11, but it's not the one we're going to use, and I'll show you why. It's called Backup and Sync Your Settings. This does not allow the creation and storage of a system image. System image backups are really nice if you ever end up in a scenario where your operating system is corrupt, and that happens very often due to malware. It also does not allow backup to an external USB drive. And the last thing I don't like about this is that if your backup is bigger than 5 gigabytes, you have to pay for cloud storage with Microsoft. So my opinion is that the original native backup application is more capable. So we're going to use that one. So I'm going to go to Control Panel and Backup and Restore Windows 7. This is the Windows native backup application that's been part of Windows operating systems ever since Windows 7. I use this on my computers. It's really handy. I've had to restore from it multiple times. It works really well. So the first thing we're going to do is create a system image, and it's looking for the place to store the image. Right away it saw the external hard drive, which is the ideal place to store this image. So we're going to say next and confirm and just start the backup. A system image is really exactly what it sounds like it is. It's like taking a picture of the entire system right now. All of the settings in the operating system, all of the files, everything on this image, when we restore it, will be exactly the way this computer is right now. Exactly. And that's why it's really nice if you have a perfectly clean system that you just bought or that you just installed the operating system on. You take a system image at that time, and then if your operating system becomes corrupt, you don't have to go through the installation process again. You can restore the system image and you're back to that clean slate that you started from. And then after you've restored the system image, you can restore your files back into place too. And at that point, you have a fully working system again. The system image creation process has finished, and it's asking us, do we want to create a system repair disk? I'm going to say no on this. When we restore the system image, we're going to use a USB thumb drive that has Windows installation media on it. So I'm going to say no to this. The backup completed successfully. Close. Okay. So that's the system image part. And real quick, if we want to go to this backup drive, this was this PC. Backup Plus is the drive that we used. And here's the folder that it created the backup in. And one thing you'll notice is that there's no size that shows up. And if you right click this and go to properties, you can't see any information about it. And the reason for this is that even as an administrative user on this computer, I don't have permissions to read the contents of that folder. And that's fine. If you see this and you're like, why can't I get into that folder, and you're a power user, or you're a little bit more savvy and you know about NTFS permissions, and you say, I'm going to modify the permissions to get into that. Don't do it, because you'll have to restore the permissions to the exact place that they are now in order to restore the backup. I've made that mistake before where I moved this image onto a different computer, and that rewrote the NTFS permissions. And then when I went to restore this backup, I wasn't able to restore it to the computer that it was created on until I messed around with the NTFS permissions and got them back to where they were supposed to be. So if you move this backup to a different computer, you start moving this around, take it off your external hard drive or plug this external hard drive into another computer, it will change the NTFS permissions, and you will not be able to restore this backup until you restore the NTFS permissions to the way they were when the backup was taken. This is an external hard drive that we've dedicated only for the purpose of backup. We're not going to change permissions. We're not going to plug it into another computer. We're not doing anything with it except backing up the system, and backing up the system right. Now we're going to go to Setup Backup. Now this is going to be a file level backup. And file level backup is basically what it sounds like. We're just going to back up files and folders on the computer. The file level backup only captures the differences in the files between the last backup. That's called a differential backup. It means that you have a backup that's in place, and when the next backup runs, the only things that are backed up are the changes that have been made since the last backup. A differential backup takes a very small amount of space once the first backup has been done, because it's only tracking the differences. And with a large drive like this external 4 terabyte, you can do a daily differential on a computer like this for probably 4 or 5 years. So you can go back every single day for 4 or 5 years. You have extremely granular restore capabilities. You can say, I might have lost that file 2 years ago. And you can go to the backup 2 years ago and pull that file out and restore it, and you have your data again. So this is why I mentioned to use a large drive, and then this is why we're doing these 2 different types of backups, because between the 2 of them, we have very powerful restore capabilities. So we're going to select this drive again and say yes, and we're going to go let me choose. Now this is what Windows chooses by default. That would cover most of what we want to back up, and probably more, and that's actually why I want to do it manually. So local disk C, if we did this, it would just cover the entire C drive, and that's not a bad option. This isn't equal to a system image, even though it's backing up the whole disk, but it is going to grab every file on local disk C. That'll also be a pretty large backup, and it's redundant in a lot of ways to the system image. And that's fine if you really want to be careful about it, but this will consume your backup disk pretty fast. What I really want on here, what I'm really interested in, is my user profile. And this is where the vast majority of people have all their data, under their Windows user profile. And that's C, users, and then your name. And maybe you have multiple people that use the computer and you want to back up all their profiles. Well, here's where you can do it. In this one, I'm only going to back up my user profile. And what is in my Windows user profile? All the things we're familiar with. Desktop, documents, downloads, favorites. My Google Drive folder is in there. Music, pictures, videos, games, that kind of stuff. It's possible that you have data stored elsewhere on the computer. And if you do, and you want to include it in the backup, make sure you track it down. Like maybe you have a folder that you created under local disk C. For example, I did a Hyper-V video and I created some virtual machines. Maybe I want to back that up too, and I could include that in the backup. So I'm going to actually back those up too. I think that's good. That's the stuff I want to back up on a file level. And then I'm going to uncheck this, include a system image. This is really handy, except for the fact that every time it runs the backup, it'll also do a system image, which takes a really long time. So that's why we did one system image first, which gives us a baseline that we can always return to if the operating system becomes corrupt. And then we're going to do daily differential file level backups. So I'm going to uncheck this and hit next. So it's just showing me a summary of what we're going to be backing up. And it's warning me that even though I'm backing up C users, I'm not backing up these locations inside C users. And we can change the schedule if we want. The default is every Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm going to actually make this a daily backup that just says, sure, 7 p.m. These backups are going to be really short and fast, so you can have them run while you're working on the computer. The first one will take a little time, but every one after that, it'll take very, very little time, less than 5 minutes. I've seen them run as fast as 30 seconds because it's only backing up the changes since the last backup. I'm just going to use this time, let's say, yeah, I'm usually using my computer around 2 p.m. I actually want the backup to run while I'm using my computer instead of when it's off. And that's the other thing to note real quick. These will not run if the computer's off. The computer has to be on, and the external drive has to be plugged in. So I'm going to say daily at 2 p.m. And then I'm going to save settings and run the backup. And now we can see the progress. Okay, so that file level backup has completed its first backup. And from this point forward, it's only going to back up the differences, the changes between this one and the next one. And mine was particularly large because I have Hyper-V virtual hard disks that were included in that backup. Now we've created the system image backup and a file level backup. So how do we use these? Backups don't matter at all until the day you need them, and then they're the most important thing in your life at that moment. Let's actually restore something. We're not just going to back up and hope it works. We're going to back up and we're going to actually restore it so we know that it works when we need it to. So I'm going to just randomly delete some files on this computer. Let's see. Here I have this Windows 10 ISO. I'm going to actually just delete this whole folder. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. And then I'm going to delete this. And let's say we went somewhere else in my user profile. Let's say we go to downloads. We downloaded an important file, and then we cleared our downloads folder. Say we just deleted all this stuff, and then we emptied the recycle bin. Control A, empty recycle bin. Control A equals select all. Empty recycle bin, yes. Are you sure you want to permanently delete these 9 items? Yes. Okay, so those are gone. Those don't exist on this computer anymore, and we can't get them back unless we did advanced file recovery. So to restore them, the USB external drive that we use for backup is plugged into the computer, and we go to Control Panel and go to Backup and Restore Windows 7 again, and now we're going to go Restore My Files and browse for files. And when I hit that button, it looks for Windows backups that are available to this computer. So right away it looked on that USB drive and it found a backup. And this is the backup we just created. And these are the folders that were backed up. And I don't want to restore my whole user profile. That'll take a long time. I want to restore the things that are missing. You can do that if you want. You can restore everything. But what I want to restore is this folder. I can do that and then add some more files to it. How about that downloads? Everything in the downloads folder. Let's do Control A and select all those and add those to the restore. And this is showing us a list of all the things that we're going to restore. So that was what I just deleted, and now I'm going to restore them. You can choose to restore them to a different location or the original location. In this case, I want them put back exactly where they were taken from. For these desktop INIs, you can do don't copy, and now it's restoring the files. And right away you can see the ISO files folder has been recreated and the data is being restored to it. We probably see the size of this get larger as the restore process is taking place because it's writing this large file back into its original location right now. If we refresh this, yep, see, it's a different size now. We can see it getting bigger in real time. Every time we refresh, that file's bigger. So it's being restored right now. We'll just give it a second. Just finished. And then it creates a log file, so we could see if there were any errors. So that's good. There's our file back in its original location. It's back to its original size. And what about downloads? And there's all our downloads back to where they were. So now we're going to do the last step, which is a system image restore. We're restoring system images when basically this computer isn't functional anymore. If the operating system becomes corrupt, it's really damaged and you can barely use it, it's not functioning right, or you can't use it at all, this is when we go to the system image. The system image is like the nuclear option for restoration because it's going to overwrite everything and it's going to put it exactly the way it was when the system image was taken. Before starting the system image restore, I'm going to make some changes to this. I'm just going to change some of the operating system settings, like desktop, and go into control panel, and I'm going to uninstall a program. I'm going to go ahead and uninstall Google Chrome. Yes, sure. Delete the browsing data. Okay, so we've uninstalled that. And then I'm going to delete some files as well. I'm just going to delete this folder, virtual hard disks, and then I'm going to empty it from the recycle bin as well. Okay, now I'm going to start the system image restore. And I'll go to the GoPro camera for that because the image restore takes place outside of the running operating system. For the system image restore, we're going to use a USB thumb drive that has the Windows operating system installation media written onto it. If you need to make one of these, I show how to make it, and one of my other videos has a picture of this thumb drive on it. This temporary installation environment is going to look for the backup. It's going to see it on the external drive, and then it's going to restore it to the system disk. And then the operating system and all the settings, all the files are going to be exactly the way they were when the system image backup was taken. So I'm going to plug this in. All right, the USB drive with the Windows installation media is plugged in, and also the external drive is plugged in. We're going to power it on and hit F12. In this case, it's F12 because it's a Dell, but to get to the one-time boot manager, it might be a different button with your manufacturer of PC, but there is a way to get to a one-time boot menu. And then we're going to scroll down and select the Windows 11 USB disk. That's the name of this one. Your Windows installation media could have a different name. And then I'm going to hit enter. And this is exactly the same process for installing a new Windows operating system, but there's an option to restore an existing image in the installation media. So you could actually install a new copy of Windows on this if we wanted to, but in this case, we're going to restore an image from a system that was already up and running. Okay, we're going to go next, and here's where we're going to go: repair your computer. And we're going to go to troubleshoot, reset your PC, or see advanced options. And we're going to choose system image recovery. The target operating system is Windows 11. And so it right away, it looked at the external USB drive and it looked for system image backups on there. Because there's only one system image backup, we're going to choose that one. But if there were more, we could choose from them. And you can create multiple system images as really nice manual checkpoints. Maybe you create one every 6 months or one every year, something like that. We're going to choose this one, which is the one we just created, and we're going to say next. So we're going to check this option, but then we're going to exclude the USB drive. I don't think it would be able to format to that anyway because it's actually running. And then the disk Seagate portable disk 2 is already excluded as it contains the system image to be restored. So we're excluding these from the restore process, and that means the only disk that's going to be restored is disk 0, which is the system disk that runs the operating system. So we're going to hit OK and next, and this is just a summary, and we're going to hit finish. All disks to be restored will be formatted and replaced with the layout and data in the system image. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. And now we are restoring that system image to this computer. And here we go. Log in. And now you can see that the desktop is back to what it was before I changed it. And I'd also deleted these virtual hard disk files, this folder, and that folder is back in place. All of the settings and files are the same. They're exactly the same. I hope this has given you a better understanding of backups. I like to say backups don't matter until the day you need them. And then on that day, they're the most important thing in your life. Don't risk losing your hard work. Take the time to set up backups and check in on them every now and again to make sure they're still working properly. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave any questions in the comment section. I do try to answer them. And please consider subscribing for more computer tutorial videos, as well as some other types of quality videos that I'm working on now. Bye.